This is Gary Smith of Ratty Smith Funeral Home. We're honored to be sponsoring the Veteran of the Month project here on WYEA 106.5. All military veterans deserve our deepest respect, recognition, and admiration for the decision they made to serve, defend, and protect our country. It's an honor to be a part of sharing some of their stories.
Our Veteran of the Month for June is John Segars. Mr. Segars joined the United States Army in 1988 as a lieutenant and was assigned as an armor officer. Over his years of service, he traveled to numerous places all around the world and served in the Gulf War in 1991. He retired from the U.S. Army in 2010 with the rank of lieutenant colonel before working in Auburn teaching junior ROTC. He tells us more about his service in his own words.
Well, over 22 years, I had a lot of jobs. I was branched as an armor officer, but most of my assignments were actually with infantry outfits, and I did a lot of infantry jobs as well. And then the third part was serving with the U.S. Cavalry. So all of it was combat arms, but a lot of different types of jobs over the years. I've served all over the world, of course, but it's funny, I tell people I've been to all 50 states. And I did that while I was in the Army. I served at all your major installations, and really about half my career was done at Fort Benning, Georgia. But I did a border security job for 3 years that took me to states you can't even find a military installation. But I worked with the Border Patrol and got to see a lot of neat things out there. Plus, I've been in about 25 different countries. I joined in 1988. I was commissioned as a lieutenant out of North Georgia College, and I served 22 years of active duty, so I retired in 2010 and then went back as a contractor and taught junior ROTC for 5 more years. So I did that right in Auburn, Alabama. Okay. The easiest thing is just the discipline you gain by being in the military. You see so many people that go to work and they don't have the discipline to do the job sometimes. When folks that have served in the military, you do a 10, 12, 14-hour day, you're like, well, that was nothing. I think that the thing that stays with me the most is those years in combat. When I came in the military, first of all, I never expected to be in the military. But I came in as a lieutenant, and you don't ever think that you're going to join the military and wind up in combat. And in about the first 18 months that I was in the military, I wound up in the Middle East. And you find yourself in a whole new culture that you don't understand. And it's hard to figure out why people are fighting over something that you don't think's that important. And if you've ever been to the Middle East, you know what it looks like. So you look at it and go, who would fight over this piece of dirt? It's worthless. But the more you get immersed in that type of culture, you understand that fighting is a way of life in that part of the world, and they don't know anything different than to fight. So you start to respect that. Even though they may be the enemy, you kind of understand where they're coming from. I tell kids all the time, and I work in the school system here, that the military may not be a permanent job for you, but it's a heck of a good start. And the military has got some benefits that you can get nowhere else in this world. And I tell them that if you go in the military, you start out debt-free, and the military covers your expenses while you get it together. And you can come out of the military and have some education benefits and have some great training behind you and hopefully the respect of a nation. So when you do go to get a civilian job, that people look at that resume and say, oh, you served with the military, what did you do? And you can take it from there. So I tell kids, hey, if you just go in for a few years and get that experience, you are a leg up on your peers. I would tell those serving right now that there are decisions being made at the highest levels with the best intent in mind, that we are looking out for their safety, their well-being, but today's world is very complicated. And you have to put that in perspective, especially when you're overseas in those tough environments, because I can remember being there thinking, what are they thinking? Why are we doing what we're doing? But as I grew in my career and I learned more and more and more and talked to more senior people in the military, you start to understand that these people aren't idiots. They're making the best decisions we can. It's just that when you're at the bottom, it's tough to understand that. It's hard to see it, and we've all been there. I think the thing that pushed me to military service was that idea that I could really go do something that was more important than what I saw other people doing. I was in college, The commandant of the RTC program came to me, been a family friend, had gone to school with my parents. But he looked at me and said two things. He says, "How would you like to go to airborne school?" And I'm like, "Really? I can jump out of planes?" And he said, "You can." He said, "Oh, by the way, how would you like a scholarship?" And the only thing that came to my mind was, this guy obviously hasn't seen my grades, or he wouldn't be offering me a scholarship. But he said, "No, there's room here for scholarship and airborne school and all these other things you might want to do." And I thought to myself, is this not great? I can do this, and yet I can serve. I can do something important with myself. And I didn't understand what it was all about, but I just saw that importance, and I had a lot of respect for those people that had served. And I'm like, well, heck, I've got an opportunity. Why not take it?
Congratulations to John Segars, our Veteran of the Month for June.
We'd also like to thank American Legion Post 45 for helping with the selection process. This is Gary Smith of Ratty Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga.